I was hiking a couple of weeks ago. I'd already hiked for 2 or 3 hours, but I said, okay, I'll make it for another 20 or 30 minutes because there's this waterfall I wanted to see. So I was on the way to the waterfall, and I was getting pretty tired. I was debating maybe I shouldn't have, maybe I'm pushing myself too far. It was a winter day, and these 3 little girls, tweens I'll call them, they were probably 8, 9, 10 years old, were out in their driveway on their sleds, and it was a long driveway and kind of went down a hill. So they were sliding down the ice on their driveway on their sleds. And it was a long driveway, so they were a long ways from me. They were probably 40 or 50 yards from me. And I was walking in the road. So I didn't make any eye contact with them. There was no greeting. I just kept walking. But at some point, as I continued walking in my state of weariness, from behind I started hearing the screaming of these 3 girls. And I wondered, oh, what's all the racket? Then I realized, oh, they're shouting at me. They're greeting me. They wanted some acknowledgement from me. So instead of turning around, since they were cute little girls, I just did something kind of silly and playful. I just raised my hands in greeting like this as I kept walking with my back to them. I just raised my hands. And when I raised my hands, oh, they screamed. And then I lowered my hands. Then I walked another 10 or 15 seconds. I raised my hands again. I was being silly. I was being playful. And as I raised my hands again, they screamed again. I did this 3 or 4 times, raising the hands, hearing the screaming. We were having this crazy, funny, silly dialogue. And then finally I turned around. I was probably 100 yards away, and they'd run down to the end of their driveway because they could see me as I was going around the bend. And when I finally turned around, it was like they just erupted, and they were going like this, and I was going like this. And then I started doing jumping jacks with my arms and legs, and they started doing jumping jacks. And I continued walking. But in this 30-second or 40-second nonverbal dialogue of silly play, of silly communion with these 3 little girls, I was so energized from that, and my heart was leaping out of my chest with the sheer joy of having this spontaneous moment with 3 strangers. I was just like the 2 men on the road to Emmaus. My heart was leaping out of my chest. I was in the presence of the source in the form of these 3 girls who reached out to me and pulled this playful energy from me. And I was energized for the whole rest of my hike. From being bone weary on this cold winter's day, I was warm, and I was a spring in my step and a twinkle in my eye, and I was walking on air for the rest of the day just from this injection of that bubbly source energy, that heart-singing presence, this paramount experience, this direct experience of the presence of the source. In India, they have this sense of 5 spiritual layers. And as you peel these layers off, I forget the name of most of them, but one of them is wisdom. And many people think, oh, wisdom, that's the purpose of this whole spiritual journey, is to achieve this state of, in the lotus position of meditation on the mountaintop, I have achieved enlightenment, the state of divine wisdom. But beyond wisdom, the innermost of these 5 layers is what they call bliss, what we all call bliss, joy, that same heart-singing experience I've been describing in all these examples. So this is why the wise men come to see the baby in the manger. This is why Jesus says we must become as children again. Beyond wisdom, beyond the lotus position of detachment, is this participation in the human drama of heart-singing joy, these spontaneous moments. And as the shaman discipline, in the shaman discipline, we can learn how to make these spontaneous, heart-erupting, heart-piercing experiences happen more often. See, when the girls screamed at me, I had a choice. I could either ignore them, they're already way behind me, or I could respond to their call. I could scratch that itch. I could choose to play and be silly. And in scratching that itch, of obeying that inner command, I achieved bliss, heart-singing joy. I allowed my heart to be pierced. The heart has a brain. It's about getting out of this rational brain that makes these fine discriminations of good, better, best, oh, not so good, overriding our critical eye of this rational European mind with these eyes, this heart brain of opening our hearts and responding to that call.